Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me today for this fantastic yoga reset. So I'm going to give you guys a couple seconds to hop on in here as this is a wonderful live class. Go ahead, leave me a little comment. Let me know where you're watching from. Say hi. So this yoga practice for today, as we're getting ready to get started, I'm just going to give you a little overview. This practice is going to be a very gentle yoga reset. We're not even going to stand up for this practice. You are going to need a few things to be comfortable in this practice. Now, if you don't happen to have all of these specific props lying around, you can improvise with what you've got. So I like to have yoga blocks for this particular practice because I'm feeling a little tight these days, especially my hamstrings and hips. Blocks are a really awesome thing to have. So if you don't have blocks, you can swap out for like a sturdy book or something like that. I've also got a yoga bolster. Now, I know not everybody has a specific yoga bolster, but you know what really works well? Some pillows off of your bed, maybe a couch cushion, or you can also grab a throw blanket and fold it up. That's going to work really nicely as well for a substitution for a block or for a bolster rather. And maybe you have a bolster, but you feel like it's too thick. This is going to work really nicely, or just grab a pillow or two off your couch, off your bed, whatever it may be. You can go ahead and grab that and we will get started. So I'm not going to have any music playing for this particular yoga practice. So I highly encourage you, if you like to have music of your own, go ahead and add on your own personal playlist to this yoga practice. There are some really good yoga specific playlists on Spotify. I like the ambient relaxation one if you're looking for one to add to your yoga practice. It's a nice comprehensive yoga playlist. So we will go ahead and get started. Let's take a moment to find a comfortable seated position on our mats. Now, I'm sitting in a cross-legged seated position. If this isn't comfortable for you, feel free to come into a butterfly, or maybe you prefer to be in a more neutral position, or maybe you want to grab that folded up blanket or bolster, or perhaps even one of those blocks and place that underneath your hips. Sometimes that makes a world of difference in our hips as we're seated on the floor. So however you are comfortably seated today, let's take this opportunity to get our sits bones underneath us. We're going to draw our belly in, let our shoulders relax, shake out your arms, let them flop in your lap as we close our eyes. And we'll begin our practice by taking just a few big, deep breaths here. Noticing the inhalations and the exhalations today. Allowing that breath to make its way all the way down into your low belly as we inhale. And then it's just going to make a little U-turn at your tailbone, making its way all the way up and out as we exhale. Allowing that breath to expand through the low belly as we breathe in. And then releasing deeply and completely as we breathe out. And perhaps on that next inhalation, we'll allow the rib cage to expand in addition to the low belly expanding. So not only is that rib cage going to move up and down, but you think about expanding outward against all sides of the rib cage And again, exhaling deeply and completely. On your next inhalation, allow that expansion to go from the low belly to the rib cage, then all the way up to those collarbones. And again, exhale deeply and completely. And we'll take just a few more big, deep breaths here as we allow ourselves to settle into the present moment. So setting aside any expectations we have of ourselves and of our practice today, we're just going to let ourselves move in a way that feels good in our bodies right now. So don't worry about what happened the last time you practiced. Don't worry about what you think you should be doing today. We're just going to breathe and move in a way that feels great for us today. So when we're ready to do so, we can gently blink our eyes open. Let's just start by rolling those shoulders today. Get some of the kinks out. Maybe we're holding on to a little tension or tightness in those shoulders, just massaging it out. And then as we're ready to do so, we'll just go the opposite direction. Nice and easy. We got it. And then gently take your shoulders all the way up to your ears. You're going to gather all that tension in your body, put it in your shoulders, squeeze, hold it, hold it, hold it, hold it, and then let it go. Shake yourself out. That should feel so much better for your shoulders. Now from here, we'll hold on gently to our shins. As we inhale, tip your pelvis forward, expanding through the chest, lengthening the spine, look up. So we're in a little itty bitty spinal extension. And then as we exhale, scoop your belly, tuck your tail around your neck. So let's try that again. Big inhale, extending through the spine. Let your shoulders relax. Exhale, scooping around. So we're just exploring some movement here through the spine as we breathe through seated cat-cow. Just take this opportunity to get a little curious about how your body is feeling today. Curious as to if there are any of those little tight spots, any areas of tension that maybe we're holding on to, or maybe even some thought patterns that are popping up here. If we happen to come across any of them, just acknowledge them. Maybe let it go. And we can continue just as we are with cat-cow, or if we want to, we'll come back to center. We're going to go side to side. So this one might feel a little weird, not necessarily a movement pattern we do a ton in our everyday life, but you might notice it starts to feel really good on that back. So just let yourself sway here, side to side, still anchoring those sits bones down into the floor. And now if we want to, let's put them all together. We're going to make some little circles with that torso. Again, just being curious. What are we feeling? Where are we feeling it today? And should we happen across any of those really tight spots today, I want you to think about breathing into that area so that we can gently release just a little more. And when we feel like we're ready to do so, taking those circles, going the opposite direction. Nice and easy. Circle around, lengthening back. And let's go ahead and do two more, just like that. back to center. Let's lengthen ourselves up again, nice and tall. We're going to take our hands behind us. But I want you to think about keeping your spine nice and long as we bend the knees, and you're going to place your feet about mats width apart with the knees bent. Open your chest, and we're just going to windshield wiper those knees side to side. So if they were starting to feel perhaps a little bit stiff as we were just kind of sitting in that cross-leg position, if that's where you were hanging out, this is a really nice way just to release out those hips. For my runner friends, this is a really good hip mobility thing for you to do too. If you're like me, your hips are feeling a little tight right now. This is a nice way just to get a little bit of range of motion happening in those hips. A little bit of movement, plus it just feels really, really good. So we'll come back to center. And from here, let's take that left leg, we're going to tuck it in and send the right leg out away from us. So this is a spot where sometimes it's nice to have a bolster or a block, especially if you're feeling a little bit tight with your hamstrings. So you can take a block if you prefer and support that underneath your knee. So you've got a slightly bent knee position, but you're also supported. Now, if it's your hips that are feeling really, really tight, you can grab one of your blocks and place that underneath your knee. You can also do the same thing with a bolster or a pillow, just depending on what feels really good for you today. So however you choose to come into this next series, grab your toys if you feel like you want to have some props. We're going to anchor the hips down onto the floor. So again, find those sits bones and anchor them down into the floor. And then we're going to lift tall through the spine. Now we've got gentle activation into that right leg. So we're not going to squeeze those muscles and force that leg straight, but we also want to make sure that we're gently activating through those muscles so that we can support our joints today. So from here, we're going to square ourselves to that right leg. Again, prop underneath that knee if you need. Lengthen your spine. So imagine you've got a little lap seatbelt going across your hip bones. That's going to kind of draw your hips back so that we can tip the pelvis forward. Tailbone lengthens back. And we're going to come forward as far as we can without bubbling and rounding the spine. So get super, super, super tall. Lengthen, 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 lengthen. Once you've gone as far as you can go with that flat back, that's when we surrender the spine into the stretch. So we want to make sure that we're cultivating that length through the low back first, and we're hinging from the hips. So that's what's going to allow us to really access a great hamstring stretch. You'll also feel a nice little stretch here in the left side of your back. And if you want to, you can hold on to something here, or you can allow yourself to just release. Another nice prop option is to take a block or two and just kind of use that to rest your forehead on today. That way you're a little bit more supported in this position so that you can fully melt into place. Breathing into any tight spots. Noticing if you're carrying a little extra resistance today. Noticing if maybe we're like fighting this one a little bit. And if you find that that's happening, allow yourself to just surrender and let go. Let's take 2 more big deep breaths here. then slowly we'll walk our way up. Sitting up nice and tall. If you've got that block there, you can go ahead and slide that off to the side. Let's square our rib cage back to the center. So readjusting here if you need to. I want you to take that right hand, and if it works for you, you're going to gently hold on to your left leg. Then we'll take that left arm and reach it up. So we're still anchoring those sits bones down. Now as we exhale, we're just going to gently reach up and over. So I like to do this one holding on to that left leg because it helps us to keep that chest open instead of collapsing into ourselves. So this shoulder wants to move forward just a little bit. This shoulder wants to move back a little bit. And do not worry about how far over you are going. I just want you to really find the place where this feels super good for your back. Now, if you're not loving holding on to that leg and you prefer to have a little support here, you can just watch for that flopping. Today, we want to open that heart center, even if it means we come out of the pose a little bit today. Really focusing in here on like being where you are in this stretch. And if this arm is getting really tired, hand can totally come behind the head if that's a little bit more comfortable for you. And as we're ready, strength of the core gently brings us back up. You can shake out your arms a little bit if you need. We're going to go ahead and exchange sides. So this time that left leg extends. Right leg tucks in. So again, block or bolster can come underneath that right knee. You can also place something underneath that left leg if you prefer to be a little bit more supported in this one. So find your positioning, anchoring the sits bones, lengthen, and then it's that little rotation. So now we're squaring ourselves off to that left leg that is gently activating. Inhale, get a little taller. Exhale, we're hinging from the hips. So get as long as you can first, and then let yourself surrender. And you may notice one side lets you go a little deeper than the other side. Just pay attention to those little differences today, because we really are different from side one to side two of our bodies. So left to right, our bodies are different. So it's okay if one side likes to do this better than the other. Again, you can also use a block, or maybe you want 2 blocks today. That's going to feel a little bit better. Just to kind of help bring the floor a little closer to you. Allowing yourself just to melt a little bit deeper as we exhale. And let's take 2 more full, complete breaths here. Gently walking yourself back up. So again, if you've got those blocks, you can toss those off to the side. If they're in your way, we're going to take this time the left hand and wrap it around. So it's a very small twist here. It doesn't have to be a huge twist. And take that right arm up, lengthen, 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 and then reach yourself up and over. Just let yourself relax here. Spiraling open from the chest. Getting nice and long, but we want to keep this hip anchoring down into the floor. Big deep breaths here. Let's take 2 more big deep breaths. And then we'll make our way back up nice and tall. Shake yourself out. We can send those legs in front of us, give ourselves a quick shake out here. And then from here, we're gently going to come over onto all fours. So take a moment to find that comfortable positioning on all fours. So we've got our shoulders balanced right over the crease line of the wrist. Hips are going to be right over the knees. And if you need a little bit of extra padding underneath your knees, you can grab that folded up blanket, or you can double fold your yoga mat. It's a nice way to give yourself a little bit of extra padding. But I do want you to think about anchoring the hands down, drawing some energy up those arms. So instead of like letting it all hang out here and just letting your belly drop and your shoulders blades pop up and together, I want you to find that energy so that we're in a neutral position. So now your back is straight and long like the top of the table. Now remember, in the beginning we did a seated cat-cow. We're going to explore that from an all fours position. So as we inhale, belly drops, rotate the pelvis so the tailbone lengthens up, extending the heart center forward. So we're coming into a little itty bitty spinal extension. Exhale, tuck and round. Inhale, belly draws in as we release it towards the floor, extending through the spine. Exhale, tuck and round. So we're beginning here to link the movement of the body into the rhythm of our breathing. So I want you to move here again in a way that feels super awesome for your body. I'm not going to force or strain anything here. Allowing the movement to flow with the breath. And if you want to, you can totally hang out here with our cat-cow stretches. Or if you like, come back to neutral. You're going to shift your hips to the right. Look over your right shoulder like there's somebody behind you calling your name. And then we're just going to shift and do that same thing to the opposite side. So if you imagine you're a puppy dog, it's like you're wagging your tail right here. It should feel so good on your back. And you can stay with this, or if you want to, we're going to kind of put all of that together. Just make some little circles. Again, you're just going to move around in whatever way feels super duper good for you today. Exploring this movement and just finding what feels good for your body right now. And we're just going to swap directions with the circles because, of course, we want to balance one side to the other. Rounding through that back, just easing into this today. Coming back to center from here, guiding our hips back. We're going to come back into extended child's pose. Now, you got a couple choices here in child's pose. Some of us like to be a little bit wider with our knees. That's totally fine. Or you can have your knees together. You can have your hands out in front of you. You can stack your forearms, make a little pillow, put your forehead on the forearms, or if you want to, you can reach your arms back. So whatever feels good for you here in child's pose, we're just going to take a second to reset ourselves. Big breath in. Big breath out. So as we're here in child's pose, I want you to really think about drawing your breath into that low back. So you guys are still in child's pose, but I want you to expand through that low back and then gently release. It's a great place just to kind of rest and check in with your body. So you have an open invitation at any point in time during our yoga practices to come back to our child's pose. However, if you'd like to explore downward facing dog today, this part's kind of optional. So if you're not feeling really down doggish or it's just not a pose that's speaking to you today, you can, of course, hang out in child's pose. But if you want to come into downward facing dog, we're going to spread our fingers and imagine you're trying to make an even palm print on your yoga mat with your hands. So you're going to press the palms down and then grip ever so slightly with the pads of your fingers. And then I want you to energize those arms so that we're gently sliding the shoulder blades down and away from the ears. Now from here, with that engagement in the upper body, we're shifting ourselves forward. We're going to tuck our toes underneath. Now belly button draws in as we exhale, pushing the floor down and away. We're lengthening the tailbone up and back. So the tailbone is going to be the thing that is the highest up there today. So I want you to really think here about folding from the hips, knowing that it's a-okay to lift your heels and bend your knees to get that spinal alignment. There's no rule that says your heels have to be on the floor. So go with what works for you today. In fact, just for right now, can we all lift our heels and bend our knees a little bit? And then maybe see if we can't lengthen back just a little bit more. And then if it's appropriate for you today and you feel like you want to try it, start to walk the dog. Bend one knee, drop the opposite heel. So if you're feeling a little tight through the hamstrings and the calves, you can kind of go easy with this one. Just work to that point where you feel a nice release, but it's not ouch. And when you feel like you've been in down dog long enough, we're returning our knees to the floor. And again, let's all come back into that extended child's pose. Breathe deeply here. And we'll walk our hands in. Let's gently shift ourselves around. We're going to make our way down onto our backs. So I'm going to have my blocks and stuff handy just for a little bit of extra support. From here, gently make your way back down onto your back. We're going to lengthen out through the spine. Might need to move your ponytail out of the way. Find your comfortable positioning here on your back. So let's take a moment to come into what's called constructive rest. We're going to walk our feet about mat width apart, and then just let your knees flop together. So you're coming into that knock-knee position. I want you to think about lengthening out through your tailbone. And then we're going to allow the entire back of the rib cage to melt into the floor. So we just want to make sure we're not arching the back here. We're in our neutral position. So yes, you're going to have a little bit of a curve in that lumbar spine. Yes, that is supposed to be there. So find that natural curvature in your lumbar spine. Shoulder blades are underneath you. Shake out your arms and you can rest your hands on your low belly. And let's just take a couple big deep breaths here. And when you are ready to add a little bit of movement here, we're going to keep those feet about shoulder-ish, not width apart. Let's come into those again, side to side. So we did something very similar seated. It might feel a little bit different down here on your back, but again, this is a nice way just to release out into the hip. It gives you a really nice dynamic stretch into some of those muscles that surround your pelvis. And we're just going to take this gently side to side. And we'll go one more time each way. I do this one a lot because it's one of my favorites. It really, really feels good for your hips. And we'll ease our way back to center. Walk your feet in just a little bit. We're going to take that right knee and let's hug it in towards our chest. So just give that knee a nice little hug. And then we'll send the right heel towards the ceiling. Now I want you to think about pulling that right hip crease down towards the floor so that our pelvis stays neutral. As we gently cross that right ankle over the left knee and let your right knee open out to the side. Now I've got a gentle flex in this right foot to help stabilize into my knee. You don't have to like crazy hard flex it, just a little flex, just a little activation again, just to support into that knee joint. And just let yourself kind of here in this reverse pigeon. Now, if this is where you're feeling some really great sensation in your hips, I absolutely encourage you to stay here. But if you would like to have a little bit more sensation, that's depending on how your hips and your knees are feeling today, keeping the pelvis neutral, so keeping the tailbone down, we can begin to draw that left knee in towards the chest. Now, I like to reach through my legs and grab my hamstring. Some people like to go a little deeper and grab their shin. My hips are not in that spot today, but another alternative, if you want a little support, like you want that leg a little closer to you, but you don't want to be quite so active, grab some blocks, put your left foot on the blocks, and then you can take your right hand onto that right thigh and just kind of make a little shelf. Now, we don't want to push. We don't want to force. It's just a little support to help hold that open so that we can breathe into the right hip, allowing those external rotators to release. So again, you've got some choices. I kind of dig being in this more supported position today, so that's where I'm going to hang out. But if you prefer to hug in or just to keep the foot on the floor, you can absolutely do that as well. And again, for my runner friends, so as we're doing this one live, I am tapering for Boston. So my hips are really, really tight. I really need this one today. So if you are also tapering for a spring race, or you've been running a lot, or you've just been out and about enjoying the nice spring weather, this one might feel really, really good for your hips. Or if you're really tight, maybe it doesn't feel so good, but it is necessary But again, we want to find that edge of our sensation and not jump over that edge into pain today. So we just want to find that release, but it should not hurt. And now we can gently uncross that leg. If you're like me and you've got your blocks, go ahead and slide them off to the side. And from here, we can hug those knees in towards the chest and just let your low back release. Just relax here. And now, of course, we're going to do side number 2. So placing the feet on the floor, let's gently hug this time that left knee in towards the chest. So again, hip crease is drawing down and towards the floor. So our tailbone stays down. Core is gently engaging. So think about that front bottom rib kind of sliding down and in a little bit so that we're not popping that rib cage and arching the back here. And then we'll send that heel towards the ceiling and gently cross over. Let your left knee open out to the side. Again, gentle flex into that left foot. Just help stabilize our knee. And just like we did on side number 1, let's give ourselves a couple breaths here just to allow our hip to settle into this position. Big breath in. Big breath out. Now, again, if this is the expression of the posture that is appropriate for you today, absolutely stay here. We're getting a great stretch in this position. But if you need a little more sensation, or if you would like a little more sensation, again, hug the knee in. You can hold on to the shin. Because I did it on side number 1, I'm going to use my blocks again on side number 2. And if you don't have blocks, but you do have a bolster, you can also put your foot on a bolster as well. And if you want to use your left hand just to kind of help prop that left knee open. But again, it's just there for stabilization and support. We never, ever want to push ourselves deeper into a posture than our bodies would like to go. So if you've got that hand there, just make sure that it's in a position where you'd be able to hold it there yourself. So not like push, 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 and then if you let go, your knee would flatten. It's just a gentle support there. It's like a little assist. And we'll take 2 more big deep breaths here. Big breath in. Exhaling completely. When you're ready to come out of this one, go ahead, uncross that ankle if you've got your blocks. Scooch those off to the side. And again, let's bring those feet about mat's width apart. And if it feels good for you, you can windshield wiper again through those knees. Or should you prefer, you can just come back to that knock-kneed position and come into constructive rest. Just allow yourself to release. And coming back to center, you can bring those knees together And I'm going to show you a couple options for this next posture of Recline Butterfly. So I'm going to add a little supported chest opener to this. So this is where our bolster or folded blanket is going to come in handy, or your pillow, whatever it is that you happen to have. So whatever it is that you've got, if you want to try this variation, you're going to put it horizontally or vertically rather to your mat, and then you're going to sit in front of it and then lean yourself back. So you just want to make sure that your head is supported on whatever it is that you're using, so you're not flopping your neck off the back. Shake out your arms and let them flop where they're comfortable. So now we're in a little bit more of a supported chest opener. If that's not for you, feel free just to lie down on your back. Now we can choose here, if it's more appropriate for your low back, to come into constructive rest with our legs, so feet out, knees in. Or you can bring the soles of your feet together and let your knees open out to the side. Another nice way to support this posture, handy dandy blocks. And if you have a home practice for yoga fairly regularly, I highly recommend a set of blocks. They can be found around town for like less than $10 for a set. Like if you go to Marshall's or Five Below or whatever, Walmart, Target, you can usually find a pretty good set for pretty cheap. So finding whatever variation of Recline Butterfly works best for you. You can close your eyes, and we're just going to settle in here. So this is one of those poses where we just want to let gravity do its thing. Allowing yourself to gently open here. Instead of resisting or forcing our bodies into a specific shape, let's allow ourselves to just surrender. Moving very slowly. Let's take our hands to the outside of our legs. We're just going to give ourselves a little assist here. Now, if you're on your bolster, you can roll over onto one side. Slide that out of the way. Let's come down onto our back. And we'll begin here in constructive rest. Just let yourself just kind of reset through your spine. Now, if constructive rest is what feels really, really comfortable for you today, feel free to do your final relaxation in constructive rest. But if you want a little bit more of a traditional Shavasana, we can send our legs out away from us, shake yourself out, shake your whole body out, take up some space on your mat, and let yourself flop. Now, if your low back feels a little sensitive here, another little bolster or pillow trick, and this is what I'm going to do today, is to take that underneath your knees so that you can be in a little bit more of a supported bent knee position. And again, do not be afraid to take up some space here. as we are in Shavasana. So let your shoulders relax. Let your legs spiral open from the hips all the way down to the heels. Allowing your arms to relax. And you're going to lengthen ever so slightly from the base of the neck through the crown of the head. Allowing our eyes to close. And taking a moment here to reconnect ourselves back to our breath. Noticing the sensations of the inhalations and the exhalations. Allowing yourself to grow very, very heavy. Almost as if you're melting into the floor today. And allowing yourself with each exhalation to let go of whatever it is that you may hold on to that's just no longer necessary today. Whatever it is that you are holding that's no longer beneficial, it's no longer serving a positive purpose. Whatever it is, exhale and let it go. When you feel that you're ready to begin to bring in a little bit of extra movement, just start by stretching out, wiggling the fingers and the toes. So we're going to start at the extremities and just begin to work our way in a little bit. Roll the wrists, the ankles. Just do whatever feels good for you right now. And when you feel like maybe you're ready to do so, start to hug your knees in towards your chest. If you want to rock around a little bit, you can totally do that. Whatever feels good for you today. We're just going to take our time. Then easing over onto one side. Just find your fetal position. You can use that bottom arm like a little pillow today. And then we're just going to use those hands to ease our way up to where your comfortable position is on the floor. You can move aside whatever props you need to get out of the way. I'm just going to sit up nice and tall. Shake things out if you need. And we'll inhale. Reach, 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 reach up nice and tall. Exhaling our hands together at heart center. Light within me honors and salutes the light within you today. Namaste. Thank you for joining me today for this little YouTube live yoga reset practice. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday, guys. Take care. See you later.